We apologise for today's recording due to the fact the sound quality gets kind of weird. We seem to have been cursed by the ancient Egyptian mummies, and they obviously didn't want this story going out. But halfway through, our microphones stopped working, so we kind of started again and started recording. So you'll hear the sound quality kind of go weird. But they obviously objected to Sam, our ghost GIMP, due to the fact that they cut him off completely. But hopefully you'll enjoy it anyway.
Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Tourists. My name is Tom Jordan, I am your host, and I am joined today by my regular team. I'm joined to my right by Dani Magellan. Say
hello.
Hi, Dani. Hello. Sam Bean to my left, also known as the Ghost GIMP.
Yeah, that's me. Hello.
And of course, paranormal expert Ross Andrews.
Bonjour!
Who is speaking to us live from Paris. Okay, so we may as well dip straight in. So regular listeners will know that the way we tend to work this is each of us brings a piece of research, piece of information, and then we kind of have a little bit of a chat about it.
Now, when you say research, you mean your one book?
My one book. So
that one book.
I mean, I feel like maybe I shouldn't reveal the legendary tome because then people might go away. Purchase it, and then I'll have nothing left. But for those of you who are interested, so the main source of my paranormal inspiration is and ever has been. Although I've noticed there's a front page ripped out, which is curious. Was published. This particular edition was published in 1992.
So it's older than the Ghost GIMP. It is older than Ghost GIMP.
It's older than some of the ghosts.
Yeah.
Well, what have you got for us then from your book?
From Peter Eldon's Amazing Spooks and Mysteries, which is actually a combination of two books. What I'm going to chat to you about, and it is inspired by this, but it's a subject that's kind of well known anyway, and that is the subject of. Thinking about the correct way to word this for it to make sense. So the curses of, I'm going to say the curses of ancient Egypt, most associated with the Egyptian mummies. Now, my favourite tome actually refers to two. The first one I'm gonna mention really briefly because it's the one that most people know about, which is the curse of, as my great-grandfather used to refer to Tutankhamun, although more commonly known, certainly in the English-speaking world, as Tutankhamun. And this one is, this is probably, correct me if I'm wrong, probably the best known curse from ancient Egypt. And in brief, for those of you who aren't aware, a gentleman named Howard Carter led a team who opened up the tomb of Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun. They did that in 1922. Not long after that, people started dying. And
to be fair, lots of people.
People were dying.
It wasn't. I can't claim that specifically no one had died.
Eternal life wasn't a thing back then.
I can't really provide evidence either way. But I am told that people have been dying for a lot longer than that.
Do you mean the team? By any chance?
Told by the team. I think it's just general knowledge. Oh, the team.
No,
I see what you mean.
Started dying.
Yeah, absolutely, and kind of a whole variety of people associated with the enterprise died over the following months, including, am I saying this right, Lord Carnarvon? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Lord Carnarvon died shortly afterwards, and in actual fact, when he died, it said that in a Cairo hotel where he was staying, all the lights immediately went out, and 3,000 kilometres, or roughly 2,000 miles away, his dog suddenly died and collapsed. So nobody escapes.
It's the ghost.
I know. This is
the dog dies and you laugh.
Are you not a dog person? Are you a cat person? Are you a cat person?
I do prefer dogs.
You do prefer dogs.
Yes.
Oh, but I do believe the Egyptians were cat people.
Oh, very much so. So that's what it is.
So that's what it is. Okay, so that's the best known one, but the one that I think possibly interests me.
There's quite a few more. Some of the deaths associated with that. There was deaths of two of the people who were in charge of looking after the mummies when they were shipped over.
In the ensuing years, 10 people who had some connection with the expedition.
In the ensuing years, how many?
About 5.
And over the course of the next 50, no.
But, I mean, not wishing to put a dampener on this, statistically, 5... Well, sorry, how many deaths are we talking about? 10 deaths?
10 deaths, yeah.
And there were hundreds of people who worked on the excavation of it. And as I say, 2 of those deaths were people that weren't even there. They were... And one's a dog.
Sam hates.
Yeah, sure.
But a lot of the Egyptian curses were probably put there to mostly stop grave robbers. Because they basically said don't come in here because it's all cursed, you'll die. And obviously the people at the time went, oh, okay, can't go in there. You look at the shiny, you can't look at the shiny, you'll die. So a lot of it was to do with that. Tutankhamun mostly famous because he was one of the few that wasn't ransacked and everything taken before he was excavated. But another factor on with that one, they actually think that they opened the tomb the day before, but they kind of did it the next day, almost like, quick, get the cameras in, as it were. And so they'd had a chance to sort of move things about a bit and sort of check it out and go, wow, this is amazing, you need to come down here and have a look. Conspiracy theories. But I mean, things like the lights going out. I've worked in that area of the world. The lights going out is not a rare occurrence.
Absolutely. And I feel like this is an appropriate time to point out that, in fact, I am probably... I say resident skeptic. I think there's a healthy dose across the whole panel of thoughtfulness that goes into our understanding of explanation of each of the things that we research. I'm going to say the most skeptical. So most of the stuff I'm reading out, I'm kind of doing so with a sense of, I'm not really sure if I believe this or not anyway, with no disrespect intended to the people from whom these stories come from originally. My main kind of focus of this particular subject is the one that I'm possibly the most skeptical about overall, but it's the one that interests me the most, maybe because of its I'm sure there are elements of it that are absolutely true, but there are certainly elements of it that make me kind of go, that's a little bit far-fetched. I don't know. Anyway, so in 1910,
modern up-to-date stuff.
This is right hot off the press. Egyptologist Douglas Murray, an Englishman, bought an ancient... Now here it says ancient Egyptian mummy case. Other sources refer to it as a tomb, which I'm feeling is probably pretty big scale.
So he bought a tomb.
I'm thinking kind of the term maybe
some sort of like
sarcophagus, or simply the I think they're simply meaning the casing that the mummy had been housed in. So the sarcophagus or coffin. Maybe.
What they often have, it won't be the coffin. The coffin is, like if you've seen Tutankhamun, is the big gold thing.
Is the big gold thing,
What they are then placed inside a large stone casing around that as well, quite often. So it's quite possibly that.
So this is okay. So maybe case is a good word for it. Either way, I can't find any references that suggest that there was actually a mummy inside it. It's simply the case that an Egyptian princess who'd been mummified had been placed in. Now he bought this apparently from an American who, now one of the other sources that I reread this story from suggested or referred to the American as a sickly American, which instantly kind of puts another possible cause of death into the limelight, but the suggestion is the American who had sold it to him died mysteriously, and apparently after this Douglas Murray found out that she had been the mummified princess had been a member of a powerful religious cult and had a dreadful curse placed on anyone who disturbed her. Interestingly, Murray had heard a great deal about a variety of different curses, and essentially just didn't care. He was not a superstitious man, so he thought, well, I've got an opportunity to own this interesting artifact. I'm really not that worried about it. A few days later, however, he was on a shooting expedition. Big mistake. When his gun went off in his hand, unexpectedly.
They tend to.
Yeah, without the intent of him firing it. Right. And his hand was so badly injured that he had to have his arm amputated from the elbow.
Wow.
Yeah. Then, on the journey back to England, 2 of his companions died suddenly. And
this wasn't another accidental shooting.
Does that sound suspicious?
Terrible shot.
Let's come up with a great cover story. A few months later, 2 of his Egyptian workers also died in mysterious circumstances.
That happened to coincide with another shooting party.
With one of his visits. And so he subsequently changed his mind about that whole superstitious thing, and he decided that he should.
He was just a bad shot.
The police came knocking, and so a lady offered to buy it from him. Now I love this bit. Wait for this. Almost immediately, her mother died. Not that bit. This is sad. Almost immediately, her mother died. And then wait for this. Now this is a curse, in my opinion, really clutching at straws. And then her boyfriend left her.
Oh.
Sorry, she died and then her boyfriend left her.
No, the mother died. Her mother died.
She's dead. You don't need to break up with
the full
him.
impact of the curse of the dead Egyptian princess.
So that's one hell of a divorce, isn't it? Because I hate you so much, even though you're dead, I'm going to leave you.
It's pretty less than a massive amount of money on a piece of ancient Egyptian.
Probably,
Yeah.
And then eventually she fell desperately ill, and her lawyer persuaded Douglas Murray to take it back, take the mummy case back.
So more death persuaded him to take it back.
Well, she was ill. She was
Okay,
ill, so
okay.
I mean, she didn't die, and her boyfriend had left her. So let's get the facts. Yeah. So he deciding he really didn't want to keep hold of it, decided to present it to the British Museum, where a photographer and another Egyptologist both suddenly died. Okay, I'm assuming not like just in the museum they just killed over. I think suddenly is a relative term in this instance. And then finally, not put off by any of this, a New York museum agreed to take, and this is it, it's coming up. This is the twist. Agreed to take the case, and it was shipped to America. Wait for it. On a new. I bet you can see Sam Bean's face. On a new unsinkable ship. Called
the Isle of Wight Ferry.
Conspiracy theories about called the Titanic, and then it's telling me, just in case I don't know, that the Titanic then hit an iceberg and sank, taking with her almost 1,500 people and the dreaded Mummies Curse.
Oh.
Well, we don't know it's taken the dreaded Mummies Curse.
Yeah.
Let's face it, there could be divers that go down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it can happen all over again.
Fish that sort of swim in the vicinity.
Whole schools of fish that break up.
There's an octopus whose arms just fell off one day.
A diver swam past the mummy, and then when he got back to the boat, accidentally broke his favourite mug. And the Mummy's Curse struck again.
God, it's just never ending, isn't it? It's never ending.
So there we are. So I'm hoping. So that's my favourite. My favourite story of this kind of suggestion that this loosely linked series of events from.
Hang on. When was the Titanic sinking?
1912. April the 14th, 1912.
1912. So what we're looking at is it's about 2 years worth of curses. That's I suppose you could say that's a reasonable amount of stuff for it to be linked.
Yeah,
because a lot of the curses it'll be like, and 100 years later,
someone was minorly poorly.
I mean, I'm not massively sure about her boyfriend left her being a really integral part of the.
That's what sold it.
So you casting aspersions on their relationship.
No, I'm just.
By all accounts, he wasn't a nice bloke.
I feel like if it's a proper ancient Egyptian curse, then they need to go big or go home. Her boyfriend left her. I'm not sure that you can.
Perhaps,
so what did you want? Her boyfriend to kill her, or did you want it to be more?
It's a time related thing. It kind of wears off.
Yes.
So it started off the boyfriend would have spontaneously combusted if it had been 500 years before that. Yeah. But we got to hear, if it had been now, the boyfriend had a mild itch.
The boyfriend couldn't get rid of his hay fever.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did any of their dogs die?
It doesn't specify. One can only assume that somewhere.
But scarily enough, it doesn't say the dogs lived.
Somewhere 3,000 kilometres away. A dog died. A dog
Also,
died.
question
Probably
about-
quite likely.
He probably shot them.
A gun went off in his hand.
Question about your story. We asked whether
It's not my
she
story.
died.
I mean,
sorry.
You can't cross-examine me. I mean,
sorry.
I'm not.
You
Yeah,
said
please do. Yeah.
you said that she didn't die. Now we're talking 1912. It's now 2017. Maybe the real mystery is how is this woman still alive? Because presumably,
Yeah, it wasn't so
eventually
much
she
a curse
died.
as a blessing.
A reverse curse.
Yeah.
A recurse.
Oh.
That can't be a recurse because
No, not a recurse. That's a different thing.
Do you have any
Recurse.
information about what happened to the woman?
I
that
don't,
offloaded
sadly.
it?
I mean, I could.
her
I could try
boyfriend
his
came
additional-
back and they lived happily ever after.
A
Kind of a
beautiful
broken
reunion. Oh. Well, now I'm sad.
So there we are. So apparently, according to this story, the Titanic sank
Because of an Egyptian mummy.
Because there was an Egyptian mummy, or the case of an Egyptian mummy, on board.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't conspiracy or gross negligence or any of the above. It's because there was. I mean, there's a lot of potential lawsuits that could be avoided, but
Wasn't
oh,
really.
There was this mummy.
oh, classic rookie. Well, you don't want to take maiden voyage. You want to take an Egyptian mummy on board. Oh, man,
I think that's
mistake.
actually written into Navy protocol now.
Yeah.
When setting sail for the first time,
Don't
remove
take
all
a
Egyptian
cursed
mummies.
mummy.
Removal, yeah.
Funnily enough, I recently went to a Titanic exhibit in Las Vegas, and they don't mention that. Conspiracy.
Conspiracy theory.
I haven't filled in the feedback form yet, so maybe I'll mention
Maybe
it.
you mentioned that.
Lack
Yeah.
of
Listen, I've
cursed
heard
mummy.
there was actually a cursed mummy on board, and you failed to mention that in the exhibit.
And the exhibit in Las Vegas is much better than the one in the Titanic Museum in Ireland, which contains nothing about the Titanic.
Really?
There's just nothing there from the Titanic at all. Considering they made it, they just like you would have thought
Wow.
they would have something.
There is a Titanic 2 on the way, isn't there? It's being
Yes.
constructed after
Yes.
many failed attempts to get that kind of
It's on its way.
project off the ground.
It really is.
Yeah.
We should go.
So trust me, this one's unsinkable.
But you'd see a lot of people bringing on a lot of luggage. You go, sorry, what's in the bag? Nothing, just a big inflatable boat, just in case. That's all it is.
Now I'm not saying I don't trust you.
It's not.
Ancient Egyptian.
It's not paranormal, so you should probably scoot past it.
Yes.
But there's a fairly major series of conspiracy theories that surround things to do with insurance claims and so on
Yeah.
that suggest that the Titanic was sunk.
And possibly not even
purpose,
the Titanic.
and quite possibly
Yeah.
not the Titanic. There were three sister ships: the
Oh,
Titanic,
yeah.
the Olympic, and the
Olympic.
Britannic. The Britannic also sank. It was commandeered as a hospital ship. I feel like maybe in the Second World War.
Film? There was a film about that, and it's haunted in the
Maybe.
film.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it got hit by a torpedo, but nobody was. I think they got everybody off. Maybe, or sorry,
Not in the film.
or a few people went down with it, but it wasn't the same scale of. Not that it doesn't matter, of course, but it wasn't the same scale of tragedy as the Titanic, and obviously it was wartime, so it's kind of casualties expected. And then the Olympic, I think was going. The actual Olympic, or the ship named the Olympic, was going for quite a long time. I think it was eventually just decommissioned and taken apart.
That's the Mummies Curse again. Then.
Yeah.
Just kind of hit all three ships at once. Three different mummies, but all connected.
Which links brilliantly to our next story, somehow.
We kind of there is a kind. Well, I'll let you speak, but I think there's a.
You think there's a
bit of-
connection,
well,
so now I have to
potentially.
try and find it.
No. But
Go on. What do you think the connection is?
Just to do
We don't know what you're talking about.
An item that maybe has.
Oh, right.
Okay.
So cursed
Well,
item.
thank you, Tom. That links nicely onto my story.
You are welcome.
So, today I'm going to be talking about a personal experience. Sound effect. It's from a few years ago, and we are actually in the same room as the object itself.
What's going on?
When I was younger,
We're in a cursed room.
you may be.
Okay.
So when I was younger, my grandfather used to tell me a lot of stories about about being in the war. Specifically, he was involved in Dunkirk, so he used to talk to me about various things that had gone on, which was relatively unusual because he didn't really talk about his experiences particularly, but I used to sit in the kitchen, was an avid listener. After he passed away, one of the things I got from his home was this book, which was called The Great War, because...
Was it given to you? Or did you just...
Yes.
Oh.
Just appeared one day.
Yeah, it
on
didn't
a
just
table.
appear in my house.
Was it specified to be given to you? When you were like, oh, that's right.
Oh, I don't know, actually. Do you know what? I don't really remember that.
Or did the rest of the family go, quick, offload the cursed book to the child?
Yeah, give it to the child. Yeah, no, I think maybe we were looking through... I knew I wanted some of Grandad's books, but I was given it because I definitely didn't go round to the house and choose it, as it were. But I was given...
No one's accusing you. You're okay.
So I had this book and it was called The Great War because at the time they weren't expecting the sequel. And if you had to cast a book in creepy old book, it fits the bill. It's this big red tome.
Made of human skin.
Regular book. For quite a few years, I didn't really do anything with it. It was in my possession. I didn't open it, didn't read it, or anything like that. Anyway, one night, cut to me being in my flat, which was local to Cheltenham, and in a building that used to be a hospital, I believe. Quite an old flat, had those kind of lift, the metal that you kind of pull across on a lift, like they had on Titanic. So many links. But yeah, so really creepy old lift. So one night I was in bed with my partner at the time, and for some reason, the fun activity we'd chosen for the night, I shared the flat with two other girls, and the fun activity we'd chosen is I opened this book and I was kind of flicking through and I was telling him some of the stories my granddad had told me. We closed the book, put it in the corner of my room. I had a very small room, settled down to bed, turned the lights off. My partner fell asleep quite quickly. I lay there in the dark. Suddenly, in the corner of the room, so the bed was in sort of the top left and in the bottom right of the room, I suddenly felt like there was a man in a uniform, very old school uniform, in the corner of the room, staring over, looking down at us, and it did not seem remotely friendly. And I was looking over, I couldn't see anything, I just felt like he was there, just felt like this was happening. So I woke my boyfriend up and I said, look, I know this sounds stupid, but I feel like there's a man in the corner of the room staring at us. He was a massive skeptic and not hugely overjoyed at being woken up by someone saying, there's a man in the room. I know we can't see him, but there's a man in the room. So he got out of bed, turned the light on, then walked around the flat saying there's no one here. Throughout all of this, I was sat in bed staring at the corner because although the lights were on, I could see there was nothing there. I still felt like he was there, and he watched my boyfriend leave the room, and then his eyes came straight back to me, really angry, but he just stayed there watching. So anyway, my boyfriend comes back. I insist on sleeping next to the window, furthest away from the man, who at no point moved at all. He got into bed, turned the lights off. I thought, right, just try and get to sleep, just try and pretend this isn't happening. That was impossible to do. Then suddenly it went from the corner of the room, didn't walk, didn't move, but it went from the corner of the room to right next to the bed, right next to the head of the bed. And at that point, my boyfriend, who I thought had gone back to sleep, said, he's just moved to the side of the bed, hasn't he? At this point... I was like, yes, I'm going to crap my pants. We need to leave. I said to my boyfriend, get out of bed, turn the light back on. And he said, I can't. He's right next to the bed. I can't explain it. I can't see him. At which point I was a bit like, I said so. So we climbed out of bed, grabbed a couple of things, and we decided that as he only lived sort of 20-minute walk away, we'd just walk to his place. Fine. As we were grabbing a couple of things from my room, we just felt like he was turning to look at us as we were doing this, and we could not leave quick enough. We left, and as we were walking across the car park, our lounge, we were on the second floor and our lounge window overlooked the car park. As we were walking across the car park, I got this horrible feeling, and then my boyfriend said, he's watching us from the lounge window, isn't he? And I was like, yes, he is! This is terrifying! Anyway, we went to his, absolutely fine. Didn't feel anything, didn't sense anything at all. Went back to the house, couldn't go in there on my own. Never spent another night there. Gave my notice in to the girls, but
Did they ever see or experience anything? Or was
I don't think I ever even mentioned it.
What the hell have we done? Why are you moving?
Yeah, what the hell's wrong with what? We've got 6 months on this place. Yeah, we'd passed out. We were on like a rolling contract at the time, and I said, look, I'm going to move out. I think we even, I stayed at my boyfriend's for a few months, and then we kind of got our own place. But yeah, I wouldn't stay another night. And I just said I think that they were kind of expecting
when
me
the
to move
landlord
out.
turned up with the contract, there's to rent at least 6 months, house of death.
Yeah, haunted house of horror. Hang on a second. So yeah, I never stayed there again. I still have the book though, because it was my granddad's, but I've attributed it to the book, and I've never opened the book since, and it now sits on that bookshelf you see behind me, and it's never been opened. And lots of people have suggested that we have a few drinks and open it, and a lot of us have suggested no.
Well, what I'm thinking then, obviously, as we are the paranormal tourists, obviously we can't visit the Titanic. Okay.
Well,
we can't visit your old
We'd probably
flat.
need a bigger budget, I think.
But what we could do is take your book to another haunted place and curse that place rather than open it in your.
I really like the idea of not doing it in my
So if
house.
there's anybody out there that wants their house haunted,
Get in touch.
we take your cursed objects, we'll bring it to your house, and
We'll open it up, see what comes out. But yeah, so that's my bit for today. Didn't have to do much research. I was there.
Terrifying.
But that was the there are 2 instances in my life that have made me think actually maybe I'm a bit more of a believer. There was that was a really big one, and the other is when I was about 5 years old. My nana had passed away quite recently, but I woke up and she was sat on the edge of my bed, and she told me to tell my mum not to worry about the orange bottle, which didn't make any sense. And the next day I told it to my mum, relayed the message to my mum. She burst into tears and said that when she was younger she'd broken this orange bottle of perfume or something, or spilled it, or something had happened. And I was like, Nana says don't worry. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's worse, and Nana said it in a sarcastic way. Like, no,
Yeah. Oh, don't worry about
it's
that
fine.
really expensive bottle of perfume.
Looking at Sam Bean's face, I get the feeling he's never going to sleep again.
So yes, that's me. That's this week's story.
Thank you. That is
You're welcome. No, I'd be interested to.
when you looked back
Investigate.
at the window. Did you feel like you could see something there, or you simply felt?
Didn't look back.
Didn't look back.
Didn't look back at the window.
Where's
right,
the- where's the
so
sense
from a
of
tourist
research?
point of view, this is in Cheltenham,
Yes.
It is.
and people could go and stare at that building.
Can go
see
and
if there's something
stare.
staring
Yeah,
at the window.
and I can. It was the second floor up. It's. Can I say the address?
Yeah,
It's
have
well,
to.
Cambry.
Don't say the actual number.
Cambry Court.
Cambry Court,
which is quite a big building.
Big
so, yeah.
red brick building
and
in
it's a
town.
pretty creepy looking place
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's on on the second floor.
So one of the windows on the second floor, if you're walking past Cambry Court in Cheltenham,
If you feel
Take
like
a look
there's
up.
someone annoyed,
and what is it?
looking at you.
Male, female,
Male,
mass murdering, axe wielding.
blood running down his face.
Well, actually, there was a sword attack outside that building. It's going back like 10
Is this the
years.
samurais?
One of them, yeah.
Oh
Was
my
it? Was
goodness!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, samurai
Cheltenham
sword
has
attack.
quite a few samurai sword attacks.
Yeah.
And hatchets and machetes.
Local MP was killed, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah. Local MP was
Yeah.
killed by somebody, and there's several people injured by that guy. But this is a separate samurai sword attack on that road, just outside that building,
Wow,
about 10 years ago.
wowzers! And I lived there about 10, 11 years ago. Yeah, it must have been about 2006. I
Yeah,
lived
it would have
there.
been back then, I think. Yeah.
Oh my! It wasn't me.
Have I got to link mine to?
No.
You have to have a link.
So, okay, so we move next to paranormal expert Ross Andrews. Is there a link? Do we?
Well,
the Titanic had a book in it, and that book now resides in. No,
Is it something paranormal?
It is paranormal.
There we go. There we go.
I thought we'd. There's a lot of tourists are going to end up in London, and one of my books is called Paranormal Tourist Guide to London. Book 1. Book 2, I think, features the Theatre Royal Drury Lane, and that's what we're going to talk about. If anyone here been to Drury Lane?
Yes.
Anyone? Yes. Yes.
I have been outside the theatre. I haven't been.
For those of you,
can't afford to go into.
yes, the Shrek was there. Lord of the Rings was there.
I
Miss
saw
Saigon
Lord of the
was
Rings
there. It was quite an impressive show, Lord of the Rings, visually.
Yes.
Dreadful
That's
show.
about all that can be said.
Yeah, dreadful show otherwise. Anyway, the theatre itself sort of claims to be one of the most haunted theatres with several famous ghosts in it. So if you are in London, head to Drury Lane because they do backstage tours. So you might get a chance to actually see one of the spooks. Now, a lot of famous theatres will have famous theatre ghosts that if they're seen, particularly during a dress rehearsal or a previous sort of run before the show opens, if they see the ghost, then everything goes, wow, that's amazing, we've seen the ghost, and the show is going to be a huge success. Theatre Royal Drury Lane has exactly that. The man in grey that walks across the dress circle. And at one point, there was a cast of 70 people on stage. So this shows you this is obviously a long time ago because no one can afford to stick 70 actors on the stage anymore. And they were all on the stage having a photograph taken, and they all saw the actual ghost walk across, the man in grey walk across the dress circle. And they all went, oh, look at that, wow. And obviously this is pre-mobile phone, so they didn't all pull out a camera and start filming this thing. And unfortunately, the cameraman that was there was taking a photograph of the stage at the time, so they couldn't actually get a decent shot of it. But that was probably the most famous occurrence of that ghost, and it has been seen several times. One of the cleaners on her first day gave a description. She said, I've just seen this guy in the auditorium, and gave a description of the man in grey. And they said, well, she knew nothing about the ghost, and this was her first day there. So it's not like anyone would have told her and said, oh, watch out for the man in the hat on roller skates playing a banjo. Which he doesn't do. If you've seen that, when you go there, that is purely auto-suggestion. Okay. There's a few murders there. And the ghosts of those are said to actually appear. There's a guy, the man in grey is possibly the ghost of a murdered man who had a knife stuck in through his rib cage, and he was found, and I can't remember if you actually go past this bit in the backstage tour because it's a long time since I went there, but there's a little alcove bit that's been bricked up, and during some renovations, I think they found a body with the knife sticking in the side of him. I honestly can't remember if you actually get to see that bit because when I was there, it was a long, long time ago, being an old man that I am. But there's several famous ghosts as well. There is Dan Leno, if anyone knows him around this table. Obviously, Sam Ghost GIMP is going to know because it goes back to 1904, so we're talking about relevant ghosts again. He was a comedian, panto dame as well, and is often known as the lavender ghost as well because there's a distinct smell of lavender, they say. Now, lavender is often linked to hauntings, and people will say, there was a sudden smell of something and then the doors opened and someone flushed a toilet. I don't know, but there's smells that go. There's a lot of smells that go with hauntings as well, and lavender is one of the most famous ones that you get with a lot of them. And I'm checking my notes here because I've got to get the date right. 1735, Thomas Hallam was actually accidentally killed by a fellow actor, Charles Macklin, when he thrust his cane through Hallam's eye during an argument.
Oh my goodness.
Now, you would think that Hallam is the ghost wandering about, but it's not. They think it's Charles Macklin's ghost searching for forgiveness from the other ghosts, and mediums have been in there, and they say that he's being kept there by the other ghost that's basically saying, no, I don't forgive you. You can stay there. I'm not going to let you go. And the other really famous ghost is Grimaldi. Have you all heard of Grimaldi?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I was not surprised. Do you know who you are? Do you know where you are? So what's going on? Grimaldi, very famous clown. And I mean, they even named makeup after him and so on. But he's probably the most famous ghost. He is responsible for kicking people, and I'm just checking my notes here again. Joseph Grimaldi, 1778 to 1837, is wandering the corridors backstage. Now, he apparently if you're an actor and you're only doing sort of like a half-hearted attempt at a show and just going, I can't be bothered with this, he's been known to kick people in the bum. But he also moves people about. Actors have said they've been sort of in the wrong place or not really concentrating or something, and it felt like somebody grabs them and pushes them and puts them in the right place on the stage.
Oh my goodness.
And they sort of turn around and go, oh, thanks. And there's no one there at all. But various members of the cast have seen ghosts during performances. There was a famous one in Miss Saigon, and this one I find fascinating because a lot of ghosts can only be seen by certain people in certain places. So you might have, say the four of us are sat in this room, two of us might see a ghost and the other two people are going, I can't see what you're talking about, there's nothing there. And the cast of Miss Saigon saw a misty figure walk across the auditorium whilst the audience was sat there, but none of the audience ever reported anything, but the cast saw this sort of misty figure of a woman go through the auditorium in the stalls, I think it was, and about, everyone on stage could see it, but no one in the audience suddenly went, oh my god, what's this, as it sort of goes across. Now the theory is that what you're seeing is not physically there. So if there was a video camera in the auditorium, it wouldn't have filmed it. But the people on stage are witnessing, possibly, this is a theory, possibly witnessing something that happened that someone on the stage saw. So you would have had to have been on the stage to physically see this figure originally.
Oh.
So unless you're in the right place to be able to see it, you're not going to see it, if that makes sense.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, the cinema screen is in front of you, but if you're stood behind the cinema screen, you're not going to see what's on it. But yeah. So you're picking up on the thoughts, and without going into a huge lecture on how the eye works, the eye is just a lens. It's the brain that interprets the signal and turns that into a picture. So the idea being is that if a bunch of you are stood in one place and you all see the same thing, it's because you're where that signal is somehow accumulating. Yeah, and your brain is going, oh, this is a picture of a dog, so you all see a dog, right? Whereas people on the other side of the room are in the wrong place. They're not in the dog zone. So they're not gonna see a picture of a dog because they're stood in the wrong place. It's like a television signal. If you've got the right aerial and you're tuned into the right channel, you'll see ITV. If you're tuned into another channel, doesn't matter how much you want to see ITV, you're not going to see it because you're not in the right place or you're not tuning in the right way.
Oh, wow.
So Theatre Royal Drury Lane. Now it has backstage tours, obviously depending on what show is on or whether they're doing things and so on. But the backstage tour is well worth going because I won't go into the whole history of the theatre, but it is one of the oldest theatres, I think, or possibly the oldest one in London. And it's the only one that's really got two royal boxes in it as well. Because the Prince Regent and the King hated each other, and so they didn't want to sit in the same box. And so quite often people, and you can go into both royal boxes, and what's weird is, as a member of the audience, you could show your loyalty to whichever person you wanted by depending on which side of the theatre you sat on.
Oh.
And quite often, they weren't always in the same theatre at the same time, but the fact that they refused to even sit in the same seats as each other, even though they weren't there. and occasionally, I think, there were times where they were both at the same performance and sort of daggered eyes and meet across the bizarre place, but it's well worth the history. And also, the one thing, when we were there, in one of the royal boxes, and I think it's the one that's, if you're in the audience on the left-hand side, the one thing that everybody apparently wants to see is the royal toilet, because there is a toilet just behind there, or was. It's a long time ago since I was there, and that's the Queen's toilet. No one's allowed to use that one. So there you go. If you want to sneak in and do something that nobody else is allowed to do, have a quick wee in the Theatre Royal.
That's amazing.
There's the same similar thing with the Theatre Royal in Northampton.
Yes.
A grey lady that sits in the stage left box.
Well, there's we did an investigation in that one, and which bizarrely we had to go along. We were booked as the group that came along to show everyone what to do and bring a load of equipment. And the person, idiot of a driver that we had with us, they said, "Do you want the postcode for your sat nav?" And he went, "No, it's fine, not a problem, don't need it. I know where I'm going." And we went, "Oh, fine, whatever." And we said, "Can we get there a couple of hours early just so we can set up some equipment and know what we're doing?" Thankfully we did. And they said, yeah, not a problem, you can get there 3 hours before we have to kick off. I went, fantastic. So we drove up, And it's really busy outside this thing. And so we said, we just pulled over. Said, well, how do we get in? What door are they going to let us into? So we phoned up this woman and said, whereabouts can we get in? Is it backstage, front stage? How are we coming through with all this equipment? And they said, oh, right, well, where are you? And I said, I'm stood underneath the poster for cats outside the building. She went, I have no idea where that one is. But look, we'll come out of the building. So long as you're stood outside the theatre in Northampton, we'll know where you are. And I said, sorry, can you say that again? And so she repeated it. I went, yeah, can you just give me a second? And I turned to the guy driving the car and said, Bruce, why are we in Nottingham? Right, so we had to turn the car around and drive all the way from Nottingham down to Northampton and do an evening there. And we got there 5 minutes before the whole event kicked off. So thankfully we'd given ourselves this extra couple of hours. Otherwise we would have been like 2 hours late. And we got there. And we said, thankfully we got here in time. And we just walked in carrying all this kit and stuff. And he said, brilliant, you're here. Because you're on in 5 minutes. And you're going to be doing the first hour. And then we do this. And I went, right, okay, thanks. And she walked off. And I turned to the guy. And I went, right, Nottingham. Okay, that was bad enough. What do they mean I'm on in 5 minutes' time? And he went, oh, yeah, I should have told you. You've got to do a talk for an hour. So we went on stage and I made up a talk for an entire hour on ghost hunting. And then we did an amazing night there. Now this gets to the ghost. The whole evening was booked out. This is going through to like 2 a.m. And at midnight, they were having a midnight feast in the bar. Right? So for half an hour, they all disappeared out the theatre into the bar. And we went, brilliant. This gives us a chance to sort of set up some microphones and all this kind of thing. And we said, this is exactly the time where something's going to happen. Everyone's next door. So this is the time where the ghost is going to appear. And you just said, bang, right from the other side of the theatre. We know everybody is out the front. And we hear a door slam from the back. Right? And so we went, well, hang on. We're the only 3 people that aren't out the front. We know that for a fact. So we said, can you do that again? And you heard bang, this time from the other side of the stage. Right. Well, unless there's 2 people out there, because one was from that side, and there's no chance they would have had enough time without us hearing them run across the stage, get to the other side of the stage. I went, can you do that again? And then you heard bang, this time from the top of the theatre on the other side of the stage. So we said, well, that's got to either be 3 people or this. And we said, all right, do it again. You heard bang, and we went running to where the noises came from. Nothing there. And we went, great. And it was all quiet. And we went, okay, well, there's no one here. Come on, make a noise again. You heard bang, and it came from where we'd been stood. So we ran all the way back again and checking all the doors as we were going and closing all the doors. And this went on for about 20 minutes. Every time we moved, it came from another place. And then we ran back, checked, all the doors are closed and so on. And 20 minutes later, it all sort of died down. We went out the front and said, unbelievably brilliant. The only thing that happened throughout the whole of the evening was that 20 minutes when everyone was in the bar. All these people have paid a fortune for some charity thing to come to this do. And they're all out having a drink and having a meal. And the only thing that happened was to us for 20 minutes in the theatre. But it is brilliant. It's a fantastic theatre if you get to do it. Lots of banging and lots of things sort of making huge amounts of noise.
Oh, wow.
So 2 theatres in one there for the tourists.
Two stories in one. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that kind of brings us to the end, I think, unless anybody's got anything they want to add in relation to anything that we discussed. What have we talked about? Ancient Egyptian curses. We've talked about a personal experience. And
so, yes, our tourists can't go to the bottom of the ocean.
And you can't live there. We don't advise you try either.
You could go on Titanic 2, which is going to sail.
You could indeed.
And see if it has the same curse. Our next one, Cheltenham, you can go to.
Yes, you can go to Cheltenham. We are here now.
You can indeed. Cambrai Court. Again, we don't suggest you try and make your way inside, but certainly you can have a look at it. It's an interesting building in itself. Yeah. And I think it's kind of creepy, especially when viewed from a good distance. And there's plenty of stuff. There's plenty of things going on around there where you can nip and have a coffee, or you can have something stronger, or grab a bite to eat. And there's some interesting.
You could buy the book Paranormal Cheltenham, which will tell you about ghost walks that you can go on.
Absolutely. Indeed, it is a most excellent book. I
have a copy there.
You have a copy there. I have a copy over there.
You could also pick up a copy of Amazing Spookiness.
No, you can't, because Tom has bought the only copy. Or you could be in London and go to Drury Lane, a backstage tour. Or Northampton. And I'm not sure if they do a backstage tour, but my brother was performing there last week and didn't see any ghosts.
So they're about due, maybe.
It's about you. It's ready. It's primed. Great. Well, in that case, I think it's time to round this off. So huge thanks for those of you who've been listening to us, and huge thanks to the team. Thank you very much, team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was going to say tune in, but it's not really that kind of thing anymore, is it? But download or stream or refresh next time to hear more from us, at the Paranormal Tourists. Bye for now.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.